Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Educator. And this week has been wild, wild. Anybody else feel it? Let me see those hands. Not only was it a very long and laborious week at the school building and at home, but now, as I'm recording, half the country, almost all of the United States, is experiencing a winter storm. And it's cold here in Houston. My daughter woke up this morning with ice. I am safe right now, but we're just hunkering down. So it's interesting out there right now. Hopefully, your week was productive. You are safe and warm wherever you are as you listen to this. And this week, I want to continue to talk about systems because in our classrooms and in our school buildings, the power of systems is huge. I believe it has the highest impact, second only to building relationships. That's how powerful I believe it is. And this week, I want to talk about how those systems then create consistency, and consistency helps students to feel safe. So let's dig in. I want to start with sharing a little story. I want to share a story of a little girl, very bright, very intelligent, was reading before she went to kindergarten. She lived in a home where her parents worked and they were young, very young. And when they weren't working, they were with friends in social situations. And many times this little girl would go to school, walking, taking care of her little sister, who was about 3 years younger than her, and coming home at the end of the school day and also picking up her little brother from her grandma's house next door and helping make dinner and doing all of the things. Grandma next door worked as well, but grandma lived with her brother and her sister, and so someone was always home. And so this little girl's parents believed that it was okay for her to be at home alone with her siblings. She did her homework every night, but most of the time she was doing homework after everybody else had gone to sleep. And luckily, she was bright, so the homework was pretty easy for her to take care of. As she continued to grow up, her mother started to experience some mental health issues, and both her parents had already gone through a period of time with substance abuse. And when her mother started to have these mental health issues and started back into using and abusing substances, this little girl was growing up without a mother figure. Sometimes she would stay at the other grandparents' house because it was safe, it was secure, it was predictable. And this little girl loved school for the same reason. She always knew she would get lunch, a hot meal. She always knew that she would have somebody there to watch over her and take care of her, where she didn't have to be responsible for anybody else except for her for those few hours in the day. And she noticed that during the years in school where her teacher created these consistent, predictable systems, she really loved school. She loved going to school. She loved participating. Even though she was very quiet and shy, she wanted to be involved in school. But the years that her teachers didn't build relationships with them, didn't have predictable systems in place in the classroom, she would walk to school dreading what was going to happen next because it felt exactly like what it was going to feel like when she got home at the end of the day. The stress and overwhelm kept building up and building up and building up. She ended up having a couple of health problems. Ulcers was one of them. And she learned that it was just best to stay and fly under the radar, get your work done, don't cause any problems. and sometimes disengage from other students and school programs because she never knew what to expect and didn't trust that the people were going to take care of her. How many of you have heard stories like this before? How many of you look at the students in your classroom and think, wow, this is a bright student. Why are they so anxious about coming to school? They can do school so well. Or, wow, why does that student sit alone in the cafeteria when they actually can communicate well and has a lot to offer the world? And how do I know that those quiet students in my room are not just flying under the radar, just surviving on the inside? The power of a teacher is huge. And what the teacher does on a daily basis consistently can make or break the future of our children. Now, and we know that research is out there that tells us that if a student is in a classroom where the instructional component is subpar for 1 year, or the behaviors are so out of control that students can't learn for 1 year, they can usually catch up with a solid, strong teacher the following year. But we also know the research tells us that if that happens for 2 consecutive years in a row, there is no catching up. Now, this little girl that I shared with you was very intelligent. She was able to survive that, but she wasn't your normal student coming into our school buildings. Many of our students that are in these situations also have other underlying things that could derail them in a moment. That's why I believe in the power of having systems in place, because when you have a plan and you actually execute that plan in your classroom and things become routine, they become predictable, they also become safe. Now, I didn't tell you who that student was, but if you're watching this video, you're looking at her right now. It was those teachers that did this for me that made me believe that I could do this for other students in the future, and the sole reason why I became a teacher. It was those teachers who provided that safety for me with the predictability of their systems, processes, and procedures that made me believe in the power of a teacher, and actually has me doing the work that I do now, which is coaching and consulting for schools so that our teachers have the skill set to be able to design these systems and execute them. I was in a call yesterday, and it was another school leader, and we were talking about that will and skill kind of phenomenon. You know, if you break your people down, you think about your students, you think about your staff, if you happen to be watching this and you're a school leader or an aspiring leader. Even think about your family members. There are these 4 quadrants. There are those that have the ability and the willingness to do their best. Those are your superstars. Those are the type of people that you want to work with, you want in your classroom, you want in your family. Then you have your direct opposite, no ability and no willingness. And sometimes that no willingness is because they're afraid to make a mistake because they know they can't do the work. I've worked with several teachers and students like that. I even have family members like that. You can still reach those people. You can still make a difference for those people. Then you have those people that are so willing, but they have limited skills. These are the people that need you to have that consistency for them, along with those no ability and not willing, because you create these environments that make it safe to make mistakes. Now, the final quadrant, high ability, low will, that's a conversation for another day. But just think about it. 3 out of the 4 quadrants can be serviced well when we have consistent systems in our classroom. So how do we make this happen? Number one, you have to know what you expect. You have to sit down and you have to decide your non-negotiables. And when they are non-negotiables, they're non-negotiables every single day of the week. What do you want your procedures to look like, feel like? What result do you want them to get? What expectations do you have for student behaviors in your classroom? Once you have that designed and built, you have to communicate it. And as a classroom teacher, I'm going to tell you the hardest thing that you're going to hear today, and that is we cannot assume students come to us knowing how to meet our expectations. It doesn't matter how old they are, whether they're pre-K 4, pre-K 3, or they are 18 and about to graduate. We can't look inside their heads to know exactly how they're thinking, why we require them to show work, to talk about their thinking, to explain their answers. They can't look inside our head and know exactly what we are thinking either. So communicating, not just these are the expectations, these are the procedures, but teaching them what these look like and how to be successful on your expectations, on your procedures in your classroom. And finally, and this is the hardest one, well, they're all hard, I guess, but staying consistent with implementation. This is the key. Even if you have a simple, maybe subpar system that you have designed, if you've communicated it well and you're using it consistently, you're going to be better off than no system at all. Now, I've talked to hundreds, thousands of students over my 30 years in education. Some were my own students. Some were my students that were in classrooms in my building. Some were students that I just knew through other channels. Number one, kids don't forget teachers that make them feel safe. And I'm a testimony to that. But number two, when students do not feel safe, they're not going to perform to their highest level, because safety is going to trump everything else in that classroom. If you're ready to get the support that you might need with this, please reach out to me. I have options in the Uncommon platform, or we can get you set up for some coaching, whether it be long-term or short-term. This is so important that we need to ensure that we are designing systems in that classroom. We're following them consistently so that our students can come in, feel safe, and excel in their academics, because that's what it's all about. All right, y'all. I hope you have an amazing week. Stay dry, stay warm, stay powerful, be your best, and I'll see you next week back here on The Empowered Educator.